What's going on, guys? Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Amigoscode. My name is Nelson, and in this course you're going to learn how to code. This course wouldn't be possible without the collaboration with Intuit QuickBooks. We decided to package up this course to give you everything you need to kick off your career in technology. We know during this pandemic things have been really hard, but we want to give you the knowledge that you need to explore technology as well as programming. In this course, I'm going to make sure that you understand what programming is, what you can do with programming, and then we're going to learn about Python. So Python is an easy to learn programming language suitable for beginners. And by the end of this course, you will understand exactly how to work with Python. You'll learn how to write some code, execute some code, learn about core concepts such as classes, loops, variable functions, and a lot more. But more importantly, we wanted to give you everything you need to give you the boost, right? So towards the end, we're going to build together an application that can ask you a series of questions, either text or voice, and then it will generate you a CV. Then we're going to take that CV and we're going to build together a portfolio. And this can be your starting point. Literally, this can be your starting point. And you'll see that programming is not that difficult. A lot of people think that programming is just for people that know lots of maths or really clever people, but don't you worry, I'm going to simplify things so that you fully understand this awesome programming language. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Also, join the private Facebook group as well as Discord because the community is growing. There are over 10,000 people learning how to code and you should be part of it. Without further ado, let's kick off this course. Join me inside. Right, before we begin this course, I just want to tell you that as you follow along, I want you to practice. Literally, just follow through every single example. Get ready, get your laptop ready, and let's practice. Practice, practice, practice. That's the only way that you will benefit from this course. And I really want to add value, but you need to practice as I teach. Also, join both Facebook as well as Discord because the community is there to help you. I don't want you to feel alone in this journey. For Discord, I've created a dedicated channel for people that enroll to this course. That way, if you have questions, we're going to be there to answer every single question that you have. But also, if you live in the UK, we're going to be sending out freebies to you guys. This is all I wanted to say. Without further ado, let's kick off this course. For this course, you're going to learn about Python. Python is a programming language. So a programming language is a language that a computer can understand. The same way that we have different languages, i.e. Spanish, English, French, Portuguese, so on and so forth, it's the same way when we talk to computers. So we have Python as one of many programming languages. Python is really suitable for beginners because it's easy to learn. And in this course, I want to make sure that you fully understand this language. With Python, you can do many things, right? You can build websites, you can build games, you can build desktop applications, web applications. If you are into machine learning, if you are into data science, Python is the tool for you, right? But don't you worry about these things too much because first, let's understand how to use this language, and then you can decide which path that you want to take. So now that you know what Python is, let's go ahead and install Python in our local machine. So I'm going to be using a Mac computer, but this setup that we're going to go through will work for both Windows users. So let's go ahead and navigate to google.com and in here and type Python. So just go ahead and simply type Python, and you can see that we have this page where it says welcome to Python. So this very first page. So python.org. And in this page right here, you can see that we've got the downloads link. So go ahead and click on downloads. And right here, because I'm on a Mac, I can see the download link for Mac OS. But if you're on Windows, simply click on Windows, or Linux, you can simply use the version specific for your operating system, which is cool. Also, right here, you can see that these are the active releases. So the active release right now, so the latest one is 3.8 right here. And if I show you, so 2.7 has reached end of life. So you shouldn't really be using this version right here. And if I scroll down, you can see that we can have, specific release versions, right? But usually just go ahead and download the latest version, which has support until 2024. So right here, you can see that the latest version as I speak is 3.8.5. You might watch this video later, and if there is a new version, everything that I'm going to teach you in this course will work with the version that you will install. So let me go ahead and simply download Python. There we go, that's finished. Now let me open up the downloads folder, and in here you can see that I've got Python. So let me simply click on it, and let me just collapse this. So the installation process for both Windows and Mac OS is really straightforward. You just simply have to press continue and then agree and then install. So before I actually press or actually put my password, if you are on Windows, make sure to tick the box that says add Python to the path, right? So that's really important so that you can use Python from your terminal. So on the Mac, it does it for me. So right here, let me put my password, install, just give you a second, and there we go. So we've successfully installed Python. Next, let's go ahead and install a program that will allow us to write Python code. Right, now that we have Python installed in our machines, we need a way of us writing some Python code. In order for us to write Python code, we need to use a text editor. So the same way that if you write English or you want to write some documents, you use, for example, Microsoft Word. Well, when it comes to programming, we have specific text editors that allows us to write code in any programming language. And the text editor that we're going to install to write some Python code will be VsCode. So VsCode is an amazing text editor built by Microsoft and is widely used in the industry. Let's go ahead and install it. If you navigate to google.com and then type VsCode, so this first link where it says Visual Studio Code in here, so let's click on it. So in this course, we're going to write Python code, so we can use VsCode to write Python code. But we can also use VsCode to write any code in the other different programming languages. So this tool is actually made by Microsoft and it's very popular, so that you know. Now let's go ahead and download. So simply click on download. And then in here, you can see that we have different operating systems. So if you are on Windows, click Windows. If you are on Linux, click Linux. If you're on Mac, click on Mac. So the installation process is very straightforward. So in here, because I'm on a Mac, I'm going to download for Mac. Just give it a second. I'm going to allow now to download, and there we go. And there we have it. So I do have this Visual Studio Code app right here. So this is the actual application itself. And if you don't see this on your desktop, it's because you have a different destination when you download applications, right? Or files. Most likely it will be inside of the downloads folder. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this application and then put it inside of the applications folder, and only do this step if you are on a Mac computer. Now let's collapse this, and then let me open up the Finder. There we go. And I was saying, so if you don't see this file inside of desktop, it's most likely inside of the downloads folder. Now let's open up applications. So this is where we have the list of all applications, and all we got to do is just put it inside here. And there we go. It's as simple as this. Now we can click on it. You can see that we have VsCode installed. All right, so what we're going to do is create our very first Python project together. So what we're going to do first is create a folder in our desktop. So right click and then new folder, and then name this as learning and then dash Python. So this is the name of the folder. Now what we're going to do is inside of VsCode, you can see that we have this section where it says start. You can see new file, open folder, add workspace folder. So click on open folder and then navigate to desktop and then select the folder that you've just created. And there we go. So now you can see that this is the name of the project, learning-python. So it's just the actual folder that we have specified. So here you can see that we have this welcome tab. We can close it because we don't need it. And what we're going to do here first is to install a plugin for Python. So VsCode allows us to install many plugins for working with various different languages. So if you want to work, for example, with Python, there is a plugin for Python. If you want to work with JavaScript, there is a plugin for JavaScript. And for us, we need a plugin that will give us a lot of features when it comes to work with Python. And you'll see this in a second. So in here, you can see that we have these little squares. And in here, we can search for a bunch of extensions. So you can see that the popular tab here, we have Python at the beginning. So if you don't see Python, just search for Python and then just select the very first one. So if I select that one, you can see that it has 26 million downloads. So it's quite impressive. So in this page, you can scroll down, you can see what this plugin is all about, but you're going to learn very shortly what it has to offer. So let's install this plugin. So click on install. And that's done. You can see that it says this extension is enabled globally. So the quick start section here, you can see that it says install the plugin, and then step 3, open or create a Python file and start coding. So let's do that. So we're going to come out of this extensions tab. So click on Explorer in here, and inside of learning, so you can see that we have a couple of sections here, but in here, so learning-python, so expand that, and then you can see we have this button where we can create a new file. So click on the button and let's name this file as my, and then underscore, and then app, and then say dot, and then py. So this is very interesting when you say .py. So something is happening here. So if I remove .py, you can see that in here, we have these lines, right? And as soon as I say .py, check this out, we have the Python logo. So what this is saying is that we have a file that has the extension of Python. So if you want to work with Python, every single file that you create has to have the .py. So the same, for example, if you want to work with a different programming language, let's say JavaScript, simply type J and then S, and you can see that we have the JavaScript logo. If I want to work with Java, I can type dot and then Java. You can see that the logo changes, right? And basically you have different extensions. So the same, for example, if you have worked with Microsoft Word, for example, this is the file extension. So dot and then doc, and you can see that we have the Microsoft logo right there. So because we are working with Python, we need to say dot and then py. Every single file that we create has to have the .py right here. So this is where we're going to have our Python code. So press enter. And what I'm going to do here is put this full screen by clicking on this green button, just like that. And then I'm going to press Command and then plus. So I want to zoom in so you can see everything what we're doing. So here you can see that VsCode is telling us that linter pylint is not installed. So these are just extra extensions. So just install and just give it a second. And basically, if you see any other things that needs to be installed for Python, just install them. They are extensions. So let me close this and then close this file here. And now check this out. So if I close the extension tab as well. So here, now this is our file. So if I close this again, so I want to show you. So here we have the my_app.py. Click on it and you can see that this is our Python file. So in here, we can start writing some code, and that's what we're going to do next. Let's write our very first Python program. So what we're going to do here is the following. So inside of this my_app.py, you can see that we have this line number here. So if I click on this file, you can see that we have the cursor. So here, this is where we can start writing some Python commands to build any program that we want. So in here, if I press enter, you can see that we are getting these line numbers right here, and they represent the number of lines of codes that you currently have. So currently we have 0 lines, right? Or actually we have 1 line which is empty. But let's create a Python program that will print to the console, hello world. So what I'm going to do is, if I first make this bigger, because I think it's best if you see it properly. And in here, I'm going to hide this panel right here. So click on Explorer and that will hide. If you need it again, just click on it and you can see that it brings it back. So let's just hide that for now. And in here, we're going to write our Python program. So let's type together. So print, and then open parentheses, and then add single quotes. So if you press on the single quotes, that will give you 2 quotes. But if you have 1, just add another 1, and then end parenthesis, just like that. So here, what we're going to do is say hello and then world. So this is a very common program for beginners, right? So hello world. And now to run this program, let's click on this play button. So this will run the Python file in the terminal. So if I click on it, you can see that we have some text, but if you look carefully, we have hello world, and this is our very first Python program. So let's close this and let's change this a little bit. So before we print to the console, let's type together name and then space equals to, and then type input, and then inside of this input, let's add single quotes, and then what is your, and then name, and then add a space at the end. Now this is a variable, and I'm going to explain variables in a second, but this will now contain anything that we input from the console. And what we want to do is to say hello, and then instead of world, we want to remove the word world, and then have a space in here, and then space after this quote, and then plus, and then name. Just like this. And basically we are saying we want to print hello plus whatever we pass to the console. So let's run the program. And now if you look carefully in here, we have what is your name. And basically we just have to type anything here. So for my name, I'm going to say Nelson, and make sure that instead of Nelson, you have your name. So here I'm going to press enter and have a look. We have hello and then Nelson. So if I run it again, and then let's say that the name here is Maria, and then enter, and you can see that we have hello and then Maria. So if I close this, and there you have it. You successfully created your very first Python program. Right, let's go ahead and learn about a very important concept that you need to know, and that is variables. The way that I like to explain variables is by using the box analogy. So in programming, you can think a variable as a box, right? So imagine that this is a box, and now inside of this box, you can store literally anything that you want. For example, you could store number 4 inside of this box, right? Now, this box has the value of number 4, and we have to give it a name. For example, we could have named this box, right? So the name would be, for example, number, right? So when we say number, we get the value that's inside of the box, right? So you can store numbers, but you could also store letters, right? Sequence of characters, and you'll see this in a second. So for example, let's say that this is a sequence of characters, so K, for example, and let me just take, for example, B from here, right? You put it inside, and you can add more letters, right? But you'll see in a second how all of this works, right? So now here, so this box has some sequence of characters, right? And I also have to give it a name. So let's say that, for example, this contains a name, right, of a person. So here I could just say that this box name is Jamila, for example, right, because it has the value inside of Jamila, right? So if I take this, you could also you could also store an emoji. By the way, just give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this video. But you could also store an emoji, and literally you could store anything. I can take my phone, put it inside here, right? It doesn't fit, but you know, this variable now holds my phone, and you'll see how to represent things in the real world later on with Python, right? By using classes. So there you go. So a variable, it's simply a box that you can store literally anything inside. And as you saw with our example where we have name equals to input, right? So name was the name of the box, right? And then the input was whatever the user typed on the console was stored inside of the box. And then when we printed the name, it just took the contents inside and then it just gave it to us. That's why you saw on the console the output of the name. But you'll see lots of examples throughout this course, but I feel like this is the easiest way that you're going to learn what variables are in programming. Let me go ahead and show you exactly how to use them. All right, so let's go ahead and delete the previous example in here. And to create a variable in Python, it's very straightforward. So here we have to give it a name. So any variable that we want to specify has to have a name. For example, in here, I can say name and then equals. And in here, I'm going to type single quotes on both sides. And this variable will have the value of Jamila. So this variable has the value of Jamila. Now, again, think of a variable as a box, right? So a box that has one and only one thing inside. And in our case, the box has the contents of Jamila, and we have named the box as name. We can also create a different variable right here. Let's say age. So this variable age right here equals 2. And then now we can say 18. So let's say that Jamila, she's 18. And we have a second box named age that has the value of 18. So remember that I said with variables, we can store anything that we want. So in this case, you can see that we are storing a number. So 18, this is a number. And in here, so name is storing a sequence of characters. And in programming, a sequence of characters is called a string. So a string. So let me actually type this to you. So string, like this, right? So this is what we represent as a sequence of characters. So this is Jamila. And then 18, instead of number, we say that this is an integer. And in fact, if I put my mouse in there, you can see that 18 and then column and then int. Int stands for integers, and integers are whole numbers. Now let's create another variable. So here I'm going to say pi equals 2 and then 3.1 and then 4. And now this number right here is different than this one, right? So this is a whole number and this is a decimal number right here. And if I put the mouse there, you can see that now it says 3.14 column and then float, right? So these are decimals. And these, right? So you see that we had strings, we have integers, we have floats. So these are data types. So they are called data types. And I said that if you have a variable, so if I say variable and then equals, so inside of any given variable, you can store anything that you want. And that thing inside of your variable has a data type. So you're going to learn more about data types, but I just want to show you the basics of creating variables. So let me show you another data type. So for example, if I say cars equals to, and this time add square brackets on, so open square brackets and then close square brackets, right? And then here, let's add single quotes and then type BMW. So this is one car, comma, and then single quotes. And then here, let's say Mercedes. And finally, let's have one more car. And then this will be Range and then Rover, right? So you can see now this variable right here. So cars, right? So if I put the cursor on cars, so the data type now is a list. And we're going to cover more about lists, but basically lists allows you to store more than one value And here we have BMW, Mercedes, Range Rover, and you can have as many values inside. So again, each variable has a data type. So if I put my mouse on the name variable here, you can see that this name is a str, and str stands for string. Age, this is int. Pi, this is float, so floats are decimal numbers. And then cars, so this one here is a list. This is how you create variables with Python. And obviously we can print these to the console. So type print and then name and then age. We can also print pi, and finally let's print cars, just like that. And if we run the program, you can see that we have Jamila 18, 3.14, and then the list of cars. Right, let's learn how to work with strings. So strings are very important in programming, and you will end up using them quite a lot. So in here we have a variable name equals to Jamila, and let's have a second variable, say surname equals to, and then Smith right here. So Jamila Smith. And what we want to do is to have a second variable, so full. So we're going to name this as full, and then underscore name equals to, and we're going to name this. And what we want to do is take both name and surname and then store them inside of full name. So for this, we can use the plus sign. So name and then plus and then surname. And in fact, this should be first name. So first underscore and then name, and then here first underscore and then name. So this refers to this variable, surname refers to surname. So now let's print to the console, and then within parentheses we want to say full and then name. So if I run this program, you can see that we have Jamila and then Smith. Now we actually need to have a space here, so let's do it. So let's close this, and in here we're going to say plus and then add single quotes, space, and then plus and then space and then surname. So if I run it, you can see that we have Jamila and then space and then Smith. So if I close this, now let me show you that with strings we can do many things with it. So let's say that you want to find out the number of characters that first name has. So type print, so we want to print to the console the number of characters that this first name, so Jamila, has. So type len for len, and then in here add parentheses, and then inside pass first and then name. We can also print and then parentheses and then len, parentheses, and then surname. So if I save this and then run, and you can see that Jamila has 6 characters and Smith has 5 characters, right? So if I close this again, one other thing that I want to show you is with strings, let's say that in here, so Jamila, right? So Jamila has lowercase j. So if I save this and then run it, you can see that we have Jamila lowercase and then Smith uppercase, right? But we want to have an uppercase in here. So J uppercase. The way we do it is in here. So with this variable right here, we can say dot, and now we have a list of methods that we can use with strings. And again, I'm going to cover methods later on. But here you can see that, for example, we have a bunch of methods. So is lower, is numeric, is upper, join, lower, split, title, so on and so forth. So let's use this method here called capitalize, and then end this word with a set of parentheses, just like that. If I save this and then run, you can see that now Jamila has a capital J. So just to give you one more example, so let's say print in here, and let's say full and then name dot, and we have a list of methods here. So let's say that ends with. So we want to check whether this ends with and then this string right here. So let's say that ends with hello. So run this and you can see that we have false, right? So if I close, so Jamila Smith, so the full name doesn't end with hello, it ends with Smith. And you can see that we have true. So we haven't covered this value right here, so true or false, but don't worry, I'm going to explain exactly what these mean in a second. This is how you work with strings. Obviously, there are a lot more that you can do with strings, but this is just a quick introduction on how to work with strings with Python. All right, let's learn how to work with numbers. In Python, we can use any of the arithmetic operators that you are used to. So plus, minus, division, multiplication, just like that. And then we have one which you might not be used to, but this is modular, right? So this is the modulars. So you can add numbers, you can subtract, you can divide numbers and multiply and use the mod or modulus function. And I'm going to show you this right now. So let's say that you want to add two numbers. So let's say that you have a variable and we're going to name this as addition equals to, and then you want to add 10 and then plus and then 5, right? So we know that 10 plus 5 is 15. So here I can say print and then addition, and I've got typo, so this should be addition, and in here addition as well, and then run the program. You can see that we have 15 right here. So I was actually right. So we can also subtract numbers. So let's say subtract or subtraction equals to 10 minus and then 5. Let's also do a multiplication example. So multiplication equals to 10 and then times and then 5. So the times is just a symbol star, right? And then 5. And let's do a division as well. So division equals to 10 divided 10 and then divided, so this is a symbol, and then by 5. Now let me print these to the console. So it just had a space there, print, and then subtraction, multiplication, and finally print, and then division. So if I save this, run the program, you can see that we have 10 plus 5 is 15, 10 minus 5 is 5, 10 times 5 is 50, and 10 divided by 5 is 2.0. So here we get a decimal number. And this is how you work with numbers and perform arithmetic operations on them. So one last one that I want to show you is the modulars. So mod, I'm going to call it mod, and in here equals to, and then let's say 10, and then mod, and then 5. So this is an interesting one. So print, I'm going to say print in here, and then we want to print mod. So if I save, run, you can see that we have 0. So let me explain this. So what this is saying is how many times 5 goes into 10, right? So 5 goes into 10 2 times, and what is the remainder? So mod is simply the remainder, right? So 5 goes into 10 2 times, and the remainder is 0. Hence the result was 0. If we say, for example, 3, right? So we have 3 here. So how many times 3 goes into 10? Well, the answer is 3. And then we have one number left, and that number is the remainder. So if I save this, run it, and you can see that we have 1. Let me give you yet another example. So if we have 4, for example, right? 4 goes into 10 2 times, and then we have 2 as the remainder, right? So 4 plus 4 is 8. And then if you add 2, we get 10. So 2 is the remainder. And then you can see that we have 2 in here. So there you have it. This is how you work with numbers and perform arithmetic operation on them. Sometimes you need to know whether an expression is either true or false. And this is when the Boolean data type comes in. So you saw that before, you saw this value true, and you also saw false, right? So you saw these two values here, so true or false. So these two values are used when you want to know whether something is true or false. So just to give you an example, let's say that we want to print to the console. We want to say whether 10 is less than 10, for example, right? And remember maths, so this is the less sign, right? So the way I remember these signs is this one right here has like a L shape, and it means less basically. So we want to know whether 10 is less than 10. So this will give us false in here. You can see that the result is false. So we can also use 10 is less or equal to 10. So this is actually true. You can see that this is true. So here, let's have a couple more examples. So print, and then let's say 0 equals. So we can say 2 equals to check whether two values are the same. So 0 is equal to 0. Let's say print, and then 18 greater than 5. And we can also say print, and remember our example, we had Jamila, and then if I say dot, and remember the method that we use ends with, let's check whether Jamila ends with, and then have single quotes in here, and then S. Yep. So if I take this line, so I'm just gonna Command C, Command V, so copy and paste, and change that to A. So if I run this, you can see that we have true, 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 false, and then true, right? So these are the expressions. So 10 is less or equal to 10. It is true. 0 equals to 0. And let's just change this to 1, for example, right? So 0 equals to 1. This will give us false. 18 is greater than 5. Jamila doesn't end with S, right? So this gives us false. And then we have Jamila ends with A. Of course, she ends with A right here. or actually the name Jamila ends with A. So if I save this and then run it again, so we have false in here. So this false here is for 0 equals to 1, which is false. So there you have it. This is how you have expressions. So these are expressions that return true or false. So these values, for example, if I say is and then underscore adult, so I can actually store the value true in there, and then is teenager equals to and then false. So I can store the values true or false in here, right? So I can also print these and we'll get actually true and the value of false. But these expressions, they give us this data type right here, which is Boolean. So a Boolean is a value that represents true or false. Next, let me go ahead and show you why we have this Boolean data type. The reason why we have this Boolean data type, so either true or false, is because they allow us to perform decisions when writing code. So let me go ahead and remove all of this in here. And let's just say that we want to have is adult equals to true, right? So with Python, we have something called if statement. And what the if statement gives us the ability to control the flow of our program. So here, this is how we use the if statement. So if statements, they work with Boolean expressions. So here I'm going to say if and then is underscore and then adult. So I'm just saying if underscore adult and then add a semicolon here. Add a semicolon and then press enter. So if is adult, I want to print to the console is and then adult, right? I want to print to the console is adult. So if I run this program, you can see that we have is and then adult. So this is actually printing is adult. If I close this and then change this to false, I want you to see that if I run the program, we're not printing anything to the console. So let me go back and explain this. So here we are saying if, and then this variable is adult. So if the value of is adult equals to true, we're going to execute this piece of code right here. Otherwise, if it's false, we're not even going to execute this piece of code here. This is what this is saying. So if I change this to true, this will actually be if and then is adult. So if it is true, we'll print line 4, else we're not printing anything, right? So this is why we have these Boolean expressions. So just to give you another example, so here, instead of saying is adult, what I'm going to do is have a variable here. I'm going to say age equals to and then 18, right? Now, after is adult, let's have another if statement. So I'm going to say if and then age and then greater or equal to 18, add column and then enter. We're going to say print, and then inside you can say adult, and I'm going to show you another keyword. So else and then column and then print, and then add these single quotes, not an adult. And if I run the program, you can see that we have adult, right? Because this expression has evaluated to true. So if this is true, this will be printed and this will be skipped. But if this expression is false, this line will not get executed, but the else will be. So if I change this to, for example, 17, run, you can see that we have not an adult. So this is how you work with if statements and Booleans. So one thing to bear in mind here is you see that it's very important that you indent. So here you can see that I'm pressing tab to indent this piece of code, right? So anything that comes after this if statement has to be on the same level, has to be indented, i.e. on the same level as print. So if I do this, this will not work. So if I save this and then run the program, you can see that we have an error and it says indentation error, expected an indented block. So you can see that it's even red now. So if I indent this, I've just pressed tab and then save, and now the error went away. So the same here. So if I do this, this is invalid. So we need to indent this. So there you have it. This is how you work with if statements and Booleans. Right, now let me teach you about this data type that you've seen before called lists. So earlier in this course, you saw that we had this variable called cars equal to, and then we had square brackets. So this is a list that you can store more than one value. So the difference here between, so for example, if I say car equals to and then BMW, right? So the difference between this variable and this variable is that the data type for cars is a list. So if I put the cursor there, you can see that it's a list. And what this means is that we can store more than one value. Whereas in this variable, which is a string, I can only store BMW, right? I can only store a sequence of characters. So let me delete this. So here, let's say that we have 3 cars. So let's say that we have a BMW, and then here, let's say comma, right? So after single quotes, comma, and then let's now say that we have a Tesla and comma, and let's finally say that we have a Mercedes here, right? So this variable cars is a list that has 3 items in it. So if I say print and then len, I can say len, so for length, and then I'm gonna pass cars inside and then run. You can see that we have 3 items in it. So with lists, let's say that you want to access this first item here, so BMW. The way you do it is as follows. So I'm going to say print and then cars, right? So if I actually save this and then run, you can see that this gives us a list. But what we want is to grab just the first element, the first item in it. So let's say print underneath, and then we're going to say cars, and then add these square brackets. And then the way that you access this first element is by using an index. So with lists, the index starts from 0. So this is position 0, position 1, position 2, right? It's not position 1, position 2, and position 3. When we work with computers, the numbering system always starts with 0. So in here, we want to say 0. So cars and then 0. So let's grab this line. Let's duplicate it 2 times. And then here, this will be 1, or actually 1, and then 2. And then run. You can see that we have 3 items. This was the list itself. And then position 0, this was BMW. Position 1, Tesla. Position 2, and then Mercedes. If, for example, you want to access, so if I say print, or not even print, I can just say cars, and then let's try and access position 3, right? So we know that we don't have a position 3. So 0, 1, and then 2, right? We don't have a position 3. So if I save this and then run, you can see that we have an error. And the error says that list index out of range. So if I was to add a second, or actually another car, so if I, for example, say Toyota, just like that, and here we can now say print. There we go. And there you go. You can see that we don't have any more errors, and we are accessing the index number 3, which contains the value of Toyota. So this is an introduction to lists in Python. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, let's move on. Now is the perfect time for us to learn about loops in Python. You saw that if we want to access any item in this list right here, so cars, we need to say cars and then the index. So cars index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. If we have another car, we need to say print and then cars index 4, right? But we can do something much better than this. We can use loops. So loops allows us to write some code that will automatically loop through the list, allowing us to execute any piece of code that we want. So let me delete all of this. And the way that we can use loops is as follows. We can say for and then car in and then cars. So add semicolon here and print. So inside, say print and then car. So you can see that now, instead of us saying car and then index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, we're just saying for. So this is the for loop construct. So we're saying for, and then this here is a variable that will point to each individual item in this list. And then I'm saying in and then cars. So loop in cars. Basically, this is what it's saying, right? So if I save this, run the code, you can see that now we have BMW, Tesla, Mercedes, and then Toyota. So if I was to have another car, so this time Honda, and then save this, run it, you can see that it automatically loops through every single item in the list. Now let's do something with this car right here. So let's say dot and then capitalize and then save, run it. You can see that we have BMW. In fact, let's just say that in here, let's just say if, we're going to say if, and then car equals to BMW, we want to do something. So here we want to say a print and then car dot upper. So we want to fully uppercase instead of just having the first letter in caps. And then I'm going to say else. So else we want to just capitalize, right? So here we need to indent this because this print statement belongs to else. So here just indent it like that. And now we're saying loop through cars if the car is equal to BMW. We want to uppercase everything. Otherwise, we just want to capitalize, and capitalize just takes the first character and then puts it in uppercase. If I save this and then run, check this out. We have BMW, all caps, Tesla, Mercedes, Toyota, and Honda, all having the first character in uppercase. So there you have it. This is how you work with loops in Python. So loops just allows you to loop through any list, and then you can execute any piece of code while looping through the list. If you have any questions on working with lists, please do let me know. Otherwise, let's move on. In Python, we have another way of looping, and that is using the while loop. So the while construct allows us to loop while a Boolean expression is true. As soon as it's false, then the loop terminates. So to demonstrate this, let's say that we have a variable. So let's say number equals 2 and then 0. So we want to print to the console the number as long as the number is less or equal to 10. So to do that, we can say while. So this is the construct. So while, and then we can say number is less or equal to 10. And then end this with column, and then enter, and make sure that this is indented, right? So if I start typing from here, this is not valid code. So we have to indent this. And you see that if we press enter, it just puts us where we have to be. So in here, I can say print and then number. So if I save this and then run this program, I just want you to let you know that this program will run forever. So check this out. I'm going to press play, and you can see that this is actually printing zeros and it's actually running, right? And this is because, so what I need to do is actually press Control C in here, right? So we've just stopped. So the reason why it's running, or the reason why it's printing 0 all the time, is because we told it to do so while 0 is less than 10. So what we want to do here is say that we want to increment the value of 0. So to increment the value of 0, we can say number equals to number and then plus and then 1. So what this is doing is the following. So here the number is 0, right? So the value of number is 0. Then we print the number, and then I'm saying, right, so number, I'm going to give number a new value, and the new value of number will be the current value, which is 0, and then plus 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Then the next time that this goes around, number will be equals to number. So the current value of number will be 1, 1 plus 1, 2. And then it goes around, prints 2, so on and so forth. And then at some point, the value of number will be bigger than 10. And at that point, we don't execute this loop right here. So let's save this and watch it execute. If I run this, you can see that now the program ran and it's finished. So here you can see that we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So that is the purpose of while loops. So we can loop while a certain expression is true. Now I can also say in here, so I can say else and then column and then print, and then I'm going to say in here while and then loop ended and value of number is space and then add a plus, and then in here what we're going to do is say str and then pass number. So the reason why we are saying str in here, so this means string, is because we want to take the number and convert the number to a string. So here we are concatenating strings and strings, right? So if I concatenate a string with a number, it won't work. So we have to say, right, take the value of number and convert it to a string. So if I save this and then run, and you can see that after the execution of our while loop, it says while loop ended and value of number is 11. So here, check this out. So if I put this like this, so 11 is 11 less or equal to 10? No, right? So 11 is greater than 10. That's why we skip out of the loop and then we print this else statement. So this is how you use the while loop in Python. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, let's move on. Let us learn about functions in Python. A function is a piece of code that gets executed only when you call it. And the main reason for having functions is that you don't have to repeat code. So here, let's say that we have, age equals to, and then 18. And we want to say if, and then age is less than 18. We want to print, and then, oops, not an adult, and then else, print, and then hooray, I am an adult. If I run this program, you can see that we have hooray, I'm an adult. Now let's say that we have a different age. So let's say age and then 2 equals 2 and then 17, right? So now I want to do the exact same thing for this second age. So what I need to do is copy all of that, paste that in, and then this will be age 2, right? Now if I run the program, you can see that we have, oops, not an adult. So a function allows us to bundle some code together, which then can be used multiple times. So in this case, what we want to do is have a function that we can just pass age and age to, and then it will perform this logic right here. So to do that, what we can do is have a function. So to have a function, we have to say def. So this is the definition for creating a function. And now we have to give it a name, and we're going to name this as check and then age. And then in here, let's for now just have these parentheses, and I'm going to show you why we need these, and then column. And then here, let's simply print and then check age, and then function was invoked. So the way that we invoke this function, right? So let's actually run the program. So I just want you to see. So here you see that nothing has changed. And this is because we haven't invoked the function. So to invoke a function, we can simply say check and then underscore and then age. And now here we need to invoke it by passing these two set of parameters. This is how we actually invoke the function. But still, this will not work because, so invoke the check function, but at this point, we don't know whether the function exists because it's defined down below. So what we need to do is take this invocation here and put it after the function is being created, just like that. And now if I run this, you can see that check age function was invoked. So here, what we're going to do is the following. We're going to remove this print and let's grab this logic, so if statement, and we're going to put it inside of this function here. So put it like that, and then make sure to indent this just like that, and then in here as well. So now I'm going to delete this other if statement because we don't need it. And let's now run the program. I just wanted to see what is happening. So here it says, hooray, I'm an adult, right? So what we want is actually this age to be passed as an argument. So here we have to say age because it's actually reading this age, right? And we want this function to work with both this age as well as this age. So for that, we're going to say, right, so here we're going to receive age, and this is called a parameter that we pass inside of the function, right? So now what we need to do is actually say, right, so check age in here. So this one right here, we can now pass any number that we want. So we can pass age, and we can also say check age and then pass age and then 2, just like that. So you can see that we wrote a function which we can now reuse it, and it has some logic inside. So if I run this program, you can see that it still works. So hooray, I'm an adult, and then oops, I'm not an adult. So here, let's actually remove these two variables. And if I run this, you can see that age is not defined, of course, right? So age is not defined, but now we can pass any number. So let's pass 18, let's pass 17, and let's pass 99, for example. So check age, 99. And if I run this, you can see that it works for any number that we pass. So there you have it. This is how you create and invoke functions in Python. And just to illustrate that functions are very important in this language, and you, when you start your career, you will create lots of functions, but Python already gives us built-in functions. So here, check this out. So here, remember we had, so here we had, let's say that we have this string right here and type hello, just like that. Now here I can say dot, and then we've used the upper, right? So upper, and then we have to invoke. So here we're actually invoking a function. So the same way that we've created our own function, so check age. So this function is already given to us by the Python library. So the same with capitalize, and then we invoke the function just like this. You also saw starts and then with, and then starts with takes an argument here. So here we have to say whether it starts with, or I think you saw ends with, right? Ends with, but the other one is checking whether it starts, and this one is checking whether it ends with, and then we pass an argument, right? So the same way here. So we invoked the function check age, and then we passed an argument in here because we defined a parameter here, right? So in the function, this is the parameter, and then what you pass inside is the actual argument. So 18 is one argument, 17 is one argument, 99 is another argument. And the same here with this function ends with, you can pass an argument, right? So if I say, for example, print, and we want to check whether it ends with, let's say, capital O, and let's duplicate this as well. So we pass now O, lowercase, run the program, and you can see that it's false because it doesn't end with capital O, but it does ends with lowercase o. So this word here, hello. And that's why we have false and true. So hopefully now you know and understand how to work with functions in Python. In programming, we have something known as classes. Classes are blueprints that allows us to model anything that we want in the real world or in software. Let me give you this really simple example. So you see this phone right here. I can represent this phone in code, right? So we can write a Python code that will represent this phone right here. And to do that, we have to use classes. So classes, when we use classes, we have two things. We have properties and we also have behaviors. And actually, I need the phone again. So the properties of this phone, for example, they would be the brand, the color, the price, so on and so forth. And then behaviors, right, is what the phone can do, right? So this phone can take pictures, can make phone calls, so on and so forth, right? So classes allows us to model anything that we want in the real world. And what I'm going to teach you is how to model a person, a real person, by using classes, right? So we have properties. So the properties could be the name, age, ethnicity, so on and so forth. And then the behaviors could be a person can talk, a person can walk, a person can play football, a person can play, many things that a person can do, right? So these are the behaviors. So classes are blueprints that we can use to represent anything in the real world. And they are made of two things, properties and behaviors. Then the cool thing with classes is that they're a blueprint, right? Blueprint means just a template, which means that then we can create multiple objects. So you'll see the term objects being used. So objects is the real thing, right? So the class is the blueprint, and then the object is the real thing that is made of based off the class. For example, we could have a class that represents a person, and then I could create one object which represents myself and another object that represents you, right? And we can have thousands of people, right? Thousands of people, and those are the actual things, right? So the objects. But don't worry, I'm gonna make sure you understand it. Let me go ahead and teach you right now. Right, let's create a class that resembles a person, and then let's create two different people. So here, the class is our blueprint, as I've said. So to create a class in Python, simply type class, and here we need to give it a name. So here, type person, and make sure that this P is capital. So classes, the name, it should always start with a capital letter. And then here, column. Now inside, what we're going to do is have a function, and this is very important, right? So this function is how we instantiate the actual object, right? So here, let's type def for a function. So this is a function, and then type underscore, underscore, and then init, and then underscore, underscore. Now add parentheses and type self. So self here will refer to the current instance of the current class, and you'll see this in a second. But here we want to pass two things. We want to pass name when we create a person, and also age, right? Now add semicolon, and now type self dot, and then name equals to name. And probably this is the most difficult thing that you have done in this course, but don't worry, you will understand in a second. And also type self dot, and then age equals to, and then age. And this is everything that we need for our class at this point. So this class has two properties, name and age. Let's now come out of the class just like that. And what we're going to do is create two people. So to create a person, let's say that we want to create a person called John, and then say equals, and then person, just like that. So person is this class here. So capital P, and then parentheses. Now remember, because this is a function, so this def init is a function, and it corresponds to this one, we have to pass some arguments. Here we have two parameters, name and age. So the name that we want to give to John is actually John, just like that. And then age, let's say that John's is 22. And there you have it. Now we have the real object. So John is an object. So this is the real thing now, right? So from our blueprint, we created John. Let's also create a second person. So this will be Mariam equals to person. And then the name will be Mariam. And then let's say that Mariam, she's 18. And now if I run this program, nothing happens. And this is because we're not doing anything with these two people right here. So here, let's just print to the console, print, and then we want to say John, and then we want to get John's age. So John dot, and then age, just like that. And let's actually add, actually just here, let's say John first. So John dot, and then name plus, and then single quotes, add a space there, and in between, just like that. Let's do the same for Mariam. And here, instead of John, say Mariam, and here, Mariam. And there you have it. So if I run this, you can see that we actually get an error, can only concatenate strings, not int. Okay, cool. So you've seen this before. So here, what we need to do is say str. So we want to convert the actual age to a string, just like this. So str, just like that. And then end parentheses here. And if I run this, now you can see that we have John, and then 22, Mariam, and then 18. So you have successfully learned how to create a class. So the class is the blueprint. And then from the blueprint, we can create multiple things, right? So here, the thing that we have created is John. And this in programming is referred as an object. So we have two objects. We have John and Mariam. So the class is the blueprint, and then these, so line 6 is one object, and line 7 is another object. So here we actually just defined two properties. Next, let me go ahead and show you how to define behaviors with classes. Right, remember that before I've mentioned that classes are made up of two things. They are made of properties, which we have, right? So name, age, those are two properties, and also behaviors. So behaviors are the things that a particular class can do, right? So properties, on the other hand, are simply attributes like name, age, date of birth, ethnicity, so on and so forth. So let's create two behaviors for this class right here, and then I'm going to show you how to use them. So let's create a function. So a behavior is just a function. So let's say def, and then we need to name it. So here, let's say walk, and then have a set of parentheses, and then pass self. So self allows us to get access to the properties that we have. So name and age. So here, add parentheses, and inside of this function, let's type print, and then parentheses, and here say self dot, and then name plus, and then space is walking, and then add like 3 dots, for example. Let's also have another behavior. So here, def, and then speak, and then pass self again, and then print, and inside we're going to say hello, my name is, and then plus, and then self dot, and then name, and then plus, say and I am, and then plus self dot age, and then plus years, and then old. And this function just says hello, my name is whatever name, and I am, and then the actual age, and then years old. And you'll see this in a second. So right, so now we have 2 behaviors for our class. So this means that now we can go ahead and, right, after we print the name in here, right, we can say, so let's do for John first. So now we can say John dot, and then check this out. We have speak and walk. So speak, and remember this is a function, and the way that we invoke functions is by adding the set of parentheses, just like that. And then John dot, and then walk. And let's do the same for Mariam. So Mariam dot, and then speak, and then invoke the function, and finally Mariam dot, and then walk, and then invoke the function again. And now we are good to go. So if I run this, and yet again I forgot to add the string conversion on integer, so it is fine. So, and in here, remember, we have to say str, and then the actual age. There we go, just like this. And now let's run it, and ta-da, check this out. So here we have John, and then 22, and then John speaks. So hello, my name is John, and I, and then we are actually missing a space here. So I am 22 years old, and then John walks. So John is walking, and then we have Mariam. So Mariam 18, and these here are the actual behaviors. So Mariam now is speaking. So hello, my name is Mariam, and I am 18 years old, and then Mariam is walking. So there you have it. So let's actually fix the space. So we have to add a space here, and let's have, I think we can just remove this first print statement here, just like that. And what I'm going to do is take Mariam, and I'm going to put it right here. So everything is organized just like that. And let's have a print, and then just have some lines just like that. Now let's run it one more time, and there we go. So here you can see that hello, my name is John, and I'm 22 years old. John is walking. Hello, my name is Mariam, and I'm 18 years old. And finally, Mariam is walking. So there you have it. You now know exactly how to create classes, how to define properties and behaviors. If you have any questions on classes, please do let me know. Otherwise, let's move on. Right, it's time for us to put our skills into practice. What we're going to do here is to build an application that will ask us a series of questions. And upon completion, when we answer the questions, the application will build a CV that we can use. So this will be a really interesting project for us here. So also we're going to incorporate the text-to-speech capability where the application will talk to us, or actually to you, and ask you questions. So this will be really cool. So go ahead and make sure that you are comfortable with the basics. If you have any questions, go ahead and let us know on the group. Literally, let us know and we will be there to help you. Without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off this CV Builder application. Alright, so let's go ahead and build this awesome CV that you can showcase as your portfolio. So for this project, we need to install a package that will let us write documents. So let's go ahead and open up the terminal. So what we're going to do is navigate into View, and then in here you have Terminal in here, or you can also see Terminal here, and then you can say New Terminal. So both ways do work. If I press on that, you can see that now we have this terminal, right? So in here we can type some commands. So here this might be a little bit different than yours, but whatever we're going to type, it should just work if you have installed Python correctly. So let's go ahead and install the package that allows us to work with documents. To do that, we're going to type pip and then 3. So pip3 is the package manager for Python. And basically we can download existing packages that other developers have written and made available to anyone to use. So in our case, we want to use this library to give us the ability to write documents, and instead of us writing the functionality ourselves, we can just reuse some code that someone else has already written. And there are thousands of these packages that you can explore. So to install a package, say pip3 and then install, and then the name of the package is Python dash and then docs, just like that. And you can see that this now is going off and downloading the package. So now you can see that successfully install Python docs 0.8.10. So this is the actual version. So if this command doesn't work for you for any reason, try and run pip3 install and then just docs, just like that. So there are two versions, but they are both the same package, but only if the first command doesn't work for you. So now we can close this window and let's go ahead and use this library that we've just installed. So to use a library, we're going to learn something new, which we haven't done before, but type from and then docs and then import document. So what we're saying here is from the library that we've just installed, we're going to import this document right here. And the way we use it is as follows. So let's create a variable. So I'm going to say document equals to, and then document. And in here, we need to invoke this, just like that, with set of parentheses. And you've seen this before. So the same that you saw before, we had Mariam, and then equals to, and then person, and then we passed name, right? So I think it was Mariam, and then she was 18. So the exact same thing here, but in here, we're not passing anything inside. So now let me actually remove this. And now we need to create the actual document. So type document dot and then save. And in here, we need to pass a string, and this will be the name of our CV or document, right? So here, this will be CV dot and then docs, just like that. Now let's go ahead and run this. So click on the play button. And there we go. So this has run successfully, but you don't see anything. So let's close this and now open up Explorer and check this out. We have our CV.docs. So if you click on it, you can see that we can't really open up this because it's not supported by VsCode, but we could install a plugin. But what I'm going to do is actually just open it on my file system. So I'm going to close this, and then in here, what I'm going to do is just close this first, and then I'm going to resize my window slightly, and then I'm going to open the folder. And what I'm going to do is just make this a little bit bigger. So just like that. And hopefully I can put it just like this. And then let's just try and put it right here, so I don't have to keep on opening this every time. So there we go, just like this. And basically we have two files here. So we've got the CV as well as our Python file, which is the one that you see here. So now if I open up this CV and check this out, we've got an empty CV. So this is really cool. Hopefully you got this far. Next, let's go ahead and learn how to add text to this document. Now let's learn how to add a piece of text in this document. So let me close this for now. And inside of VsCode, what we're going to do is a bunch of things in between the creation of document as well as the saving of the document, right? So we create the document, we do some stuff in between, and then we save. So in here, let's go ahead and have a variable that will hold the name, phone number, and email. So let's go ahead and create a variable. Simply say name equals to Nelson. And let's also have phone underscore and then number equals to, and this will be just 000 for now, right? And finally, let's have email equals to, and then hello at amigoscode.com. So what we're going to do is take these three variables and then add them to our document or CV. So to do that, we need to say, so in here, we need to say document dot and then add and then paragraph, just like this. And in here, what I'm going to do is press enter. So this is on a new line. And what I have to do is pass the name. So let's simply say for now, hello. I just want you to see that if I run this, you can see that worked. Let me just close this and then open up the document. You can see that we have hello right here. So let me just zoom this. There we go. So we have hello. So what we want is the actual name, phone number, and email. So what we're going to do is remove this string right here, and we're going to say name and then plus and then quotes, and in between let's add this pipe plus and then phone number, the same pipe, and let me just put this a bit smaller so it fits everything under one line, just like that. And then another pipe in here. And then finally email. Cool. So that's everything that we have to do. So if I run the program, and it's complaining because I've missed the plus sign. So here we need to concatenate this as well. And there you have it. So now if I run it, you can see that it works. And if I close it, open up the document, and you can see that we have Nelson right here, 00, and then hello Amigoscode. So what I want really is to take this name, phone number, and email coming from the console as an input, and you've seen it before. So what we're going to do is instead of Nelson, I'm going to say input, and then here, what is your and then name, question mark, and then add a space. We're going to do the same for phone number. So I'm just going to grab this, Command C, paste that in, and the same for email. But instead of name, I'm going to say phone number, and then what is your email. Now, if I run the program, check this out. So at the bottom, we can add our name. So here, I'm going to say, for example, Eba, and then phone number is 03, just a random phone number, and then email will be Eba at and then gmail.com. Enter. And now if I open up the CV, there we go. You can see that we have Eba and then the phone number. So let me just zoom it so you can see everything properly. There we go. So Eba 033, this is the random phone number, and then the actual email. So there you have it. You now know how to take input and then store that in a document. So this is just the beginning of your CV, but by the end of this section will look super amazing. Next, let's add a profile picture. All right, to add a picture to your CV, go ahead and grab any of the pictures that you might have. So if you don't have a picture right now, what you can do is navigate to pexels.com, and then in here you can search for profile and then picture, and then you can just pretty much use one of these pictures. So you can download to your local computer and you can follow along. So in my case, what I have is my profile picture here. So what I'm going to do is take this file and then put it inside of learning-python. So this is our folder where we have our Python file. So now let me go back and you can see that we have the profile picture here, right? So what we're going to do is, let me close this document and then this as well. So just before, so in here, just before this name variable, what we're going to do is add the picture. So to add a picture is really straightforward. So say document dot, and then for paragraph, remember here you said add and then paragraph, and for picture you say add underscore and then try to guess. Well, you've guessed it right. So add and then picture, just like that. And then inside we have to pass few things. One is the name of the file. So in my case it's me dot and then png. So this is the file extension, and you can see right here, so me.png. And if I run this, you can see that we have to input the name. So let's say Nelson this time, and then phone number 000 hello at, and then Amigoscode.com, enter. And now if we open up our CV right here, check this out. The picture is in our document. So this is really cool. So one thing that we want to do is, the picture is actually too big. So what we're going to do is the following. Go to the top and then here say from, and then docs with X dot, and then shared, import, and then inches. So what this will allow us to do is to say after the file name here, add a comma, and then say width equals 2, and then inches. So this inches right here is this one, and then inside of inches, oops, oh my god, right, so this is actually on my way. So here inside of inches we have to pass a number. So in my case I'm going to pass 2.0, and let me put this on a new line so you see properly, just like that, and there we go. So you can see that we have the file name, and then we say width, and then inches. So now if I run this, let's again add the name. There we go, enter. And if I open up the document once more, you can see that the picture now is much smaller. So there you have it. Our CV is now taking shape. Next, let's go ahead and learn how to add headings where you can have information about yourself. Alright, before we add a section about yourself, what I want to do is add a comment, or actually 2 comments. So you haven't learned about comments, but comments is a way of you organizing your code so that when you look at it, it's easy for you to understand. So to add a comment, you need to add the # here. So this # or hash sign, right? So you can either press command and then / or control / if you're on Windows. So here you get this symbol right here, and here we can say profile and then picture. So this is just we document things. And then in here we have another comment. So let's have another comment, and this is so we can organize each section. And then here we can have name, phone number, and email details. So one thing that you should know about comments is that this doesn't have any effect when you run your code. This is only for documenting this file right here. So anyone that looks at it, they know that what this code is all about. So there you have it. So now we have 2 comments here. Now let's go ahead and after the paragraph, let's add yet another comment. And then here I'm going to say about and then me. And let's go ahead and add a heading. So to add a heading, say document dot and then add, and then try to guess. Of course, you guessed it right. So heading, and then in here, say about and then me. And this will be really straightforward. So we're going to say about underscore me equals to input, and then tell me about your and then self, and then question mark, and then add a space. And what we're going to do is then add a paragraph. So we're going to say document dot add and then paragraph, and then here inside we need to pass about and then me. And it's as simple as that. So you could do it this way where you store the variable name in here, or we can take this entire thing here. We're going to cut it, and you can remove the variable and then just put it right inside. So it is totally up to you how you prefer to do this. So there we go. Now let's run the program. And what's your name? And the number, our random number. Hello at amigoscode.com. Tell me about yourself. I love coding and teaching. Enter. Now let's open up the CV and check this out. So we have about me. This is the heading and it's blue. And then we have some description. Obviously we need more information here, but we'll do that in a second. Next, let's go ahead and add some work experiences. Right, let's add some work experiences. So in here, let me go ahead and add a comment, and I'm going to say work and then experience. And what we're going to do is the following. So we want to add a heading. So document dot and then add heading. and here will be work, and then experience. And then we're going to add a paragraph. So document dot, and then add paragraph. And in here, this paragraph will be a little bit different. So what we want to do is store this paragraph into a variable called p for paragraph, and inside add nothing. And what we're going to do is to take few things from the input. We're going to take the company, and then input, enter, and then company, and then space. We want the start underscore and then date equals to input, and then let's say from and then date, and let's change this to from date as well. From date and not data, date, and then here to, and then underscore date equals to input, and then to, and then date, and then add a space there as well here. And now what we're going to do is the following. We're going to use this paragraph in here to add a paragraph. So we're going to say p dot and then add run. So this is how you add text to existing paragraphs. And then here, what we want to do is to say company and then plus, and then add an empty space, and you'll see this in a second. And then say dot and then bold. So we want this to be in bold, equals to true. So you've learned about Booleans. And next, what we want to do is to say p dot and then add underscore run. And here, what we want to add is the from and then date plus and then single quotes, and add a dash here, and then plus, and then to underscore date. And finally, what we want is to say plus, and then here say backslash, and then n. So this will give us a new line. And then at the end, we want to say dot, and then italic equals to, and then true. And you'll see this in a second. So there we go. Finally, we can capture the experience description. So experience and then underscore details equals to, and then input. And inside, what we're going to do is on a new line here, I'm going to say describe your experience, and then at, and then plus, and we have the company. And finally, what we need to do is to say p dot and then add and then run, and we want to have the experience and then details, and then run. And let's fill this information once more. So Nelson 000, and then hello at, and then Amigoscode.com, and then I love Python. So tell me about yourself. I love Python. Enter, and then enter company. So here, let's say Amigos, and then code, and then from date, let's say that this is from like 2000 to 2020. Enter, and then here describe your experience at Amigoscode, teaching people how to code. Enter, and there we go. So now let's open up the CV, and that's the previous one. Let me close that and check this out. So you can see that now we have in here, so we have our picture. This is name, phone number, email, about, and then work experience. So here, this is what we've done. We've got the heading, work experience, and then this is the company, Amigoscode, and then 2000 to 2020, and then this is the this is the actual description. So you can see that the CV is actually taking shape now. And one thing is, as you are doing this together with me, if you feel like this title has to be different for you, by no means you are free to change, because after all, this is your project. So let me just go back once more and explain what we've done. So I just want to show you here. So in here, we've got the work experience, we have the paragraph, and then we capture company from date and to date. And then here you see that we have company plus and then a space dot bold. This is because of this part right here, right? So this is, so if I make this smaller and just put it here. So this is the company Amigoscode here, right, in bold, and then space. But on the same line, we want to add from date and then to date. And you can see here from date and then to date, and you can see the dash there. So this is the dash, and you can see the dash on the CV, right? And then you can see that we have this \n. So this \n gives us a new line where we put teaching people how to code, which is this part right here. So experience details, and then we say p.add run, and this is why we have it on a new line. So if you have questions on any of this, please do let me know. Otherwise, next, let's learn how to keep on adding more experiences to your CV. Right, so far in our CV, we can only add one experience, but perhaps you have more than one experience. So how do we keep on adding more experiences until we tell the program that we are done and we don't have more experiences? Well, we've learned about while loops before. Now let's use it. So here I'm going to add another comment, and I'm going to say more and then experiences, and this should be experiences. And now I'm going to say while and then true. So here, while true, we're going to do something. So I'm going to say more and then experiences, or actually has, and then more experiences with an E and N equals to, and then input. So we're going to ask the user whether he or she has more experiences. So here, let me put this on a new line, and let me just close this CV here. So here I'm going to say, do you have more experiences? And then question mark, yes or, and then no, just like that. So now we have this variable that will contain yes or no. So what we want to do is to grab the response. So we're going to say if, and then we want to lower the response. So we're going to say has, if, and then has more experiences equals to, and then yes, we want to do something in here. So what we want to do is the exact same thing that we've done in here. So with work experience. So grab everything apart from the heading, right? So from here, so this paragraph, and then scroll down all the way to more experiences and actually select everything, right? So from line 28, so basically don't include the heading, right? And then all the way down to where we add the details. So we're going to grab all of that. So copy that, and then in here, paste that in. And what we're going to do is actually indent this. So this has to be inside of this if statement right here. And to be honest, this is everything. But we have one issue here, right? So currently this program will keep on asking us questions forever, right? But we don't want that. So what we want to do is to say, right, if the answer is not equals to yes, we're going to say else, right? If it's anything but anything other than yes, we're going to break out of the while loop. So remember, the while loop keeps on looping forever, right? But by saying else, we're going to come out of the loop. So here, while true, right? Remember, while true, keep on looping. So if the answer is yes, we want to ask the same questions. Otherwise, we want to break out of this loop. So one more thing is that in here, so the user might reply yes, like that, or yes, like that. So to make sure that the user replies in the correct order, let's take the input and then say dot and then lower, or actually lower like that. And you've seen this, and we have to invoke the function. And this is everything. So now let's go ahead and run the program. So what's your name? And then number, and then hello at gmail@amigoscode.com, and then tell about yourself, or actually tell us, it should be tell us about yourself, but it's fine. So here, let's say I love coding, and then enter company. Let's say Amigos. Let's say Intuit, and then QuickBooks, and then enter. And then from date, let's say since 26, oops. So let me delete that. So 20 and then 16 to 20 and then let's say 19, and then experience social media expert, enter, and then check this out. Now we have, do you have more experiences? Yes or no. Now let's say yes, and you can see that we have enter company, right? So it's asking me the same question. So here I'm going to say Amigos and then code, and then from 2019 to date, so we're going to say present, enter, and then here enter, or actually describe your experience, programmer, something like that, enter. And again, do you have more experiences? Yes or no. Let's say no, enter, and you can see that the program has finished. And if I close this, let's open up the CV and check this out. So here you can see that we have work experience, and then Intuit QuickBooks, the date, so from to social media expert, Amigoscode 2019, present, and programmer. So there you have it. You see that the CV is actually taking shape. So let me just close this. So one thing here that I forgot was to, so I think somewhere around here. So yeah, so we need a space in here. And also in here, so describe experience details, we need a space there. So plus, and then space, just like that. And there you have it. So congratulations, you are building an awesome CV. Let me show you again. And hopefully this is just the beginning. Next, I want to give you an exercise so that you can test your knowledge. Right, as you can see, our CV is taking shape. And I think this is the perfect time to give you an exercise to see how far you have come in this course. Now it's time to put your skills into practice. So go ahead and build a section where you can showcase the list of skills. So maybe one skill is enough, but I don't think one skill is enough. So let's also have the while loop. And then if the user says no more skills, then you exit out of it. We also want it to be a little bit different. So we want it in bullet points. And you can see the code that you should be using to have it as bullet points. So just use it and try and build the section with a list of all of your skills. What I want you to do is to try really, really hard. So give it a try, and then I'm going to give you the solution in a second. The solution for the exercise that I've set up for you is as follows. So we have the skills comment right here to keep things tidy. Then we have the heading, and we've called skills. Again, you can name this whatever you want. And then we have the actual skill, and this comes from the input that comes from the console. Then we have our paragraph, and then we style it because this time we want a list bullet. And then we do the same as we did with experiences, but here we ask the user has more skills. And the question is, do you have more skills? Yes or no. If the answer is yes, we want to do the exact same thing as we did in here. And then finally, what I've done in here, I've added a footer to our document. To add a footer, you need to get access to a section right here. So we're just getting access to the first section, and then we're grabbing the footer from that section, and then we're changing the paragraph. So here we're saying P, so the paragraph that comes from the footer paragraph, and then here we're just setting the text. So CV generated Amigoscode and Intuit QuickBooks course project. And this is the solution for the exercise. Now let me go ahead and run it so you can see in action. Here, what's your name? Nelson, phone number 000, oh actually 999, whatever. And then hello at amigoscode.com. And then here, I'm just gonna keep things simple. But what I'm going to do is in here, let me go to google.com, obviously. And then here we're going to search for Lauren and then Ipsum. And feel free to add information. But basically here we can grab some random text. So let me just agree to this. And we can grab like random text that we can use. So here I'm going to grab that. And then put it here, enter the company. So here I'm going to say Intuit and then QuickBooks. There we go. And then from 2017 to 2019, and then experience. And I think we're missing a space there. So the experience here, let's say social, and then media, and then manager. Enter. Do you have more experiences? Let's say yes. And then here Amigos and then code, and then from date 2019 to 2020, and then let's say Python developer, and then enter. Do you have more experiences? Let's just say no for now, and then enter a skill. So let's say Python, and then you have more skills, say yes. And then here, let's say marketing, Do you have more skills? Say yes. And then let's say here, for example, management. Enter. Do you have more skills? We're going to say no. So N. And there we go. So now let's check out our CV. So if I open up, there we go. So you can see that our CV looks really, really cool. So obviously we could have added more text in here. So something like that. But obviously you can put some real information, but also you can see the skills. So this is a bullet point in bullet points, and we have our footer. So CV generated using Amigoscode and Intuit QuickBooks course project. So there you have it. You now have a CV that you can put on your portfolio. And this is just the beginning of your journey. Next, I want to show you one last thing, which I think you're going to love it. Right, to install this library that can take any text and then convert it into speech, let's go ahead and open up the terminal in here. So terminal or command line if you're on Windows, and then new terminal. And you've seen this quite a lot. So this is where all the output from our program shows up. So to install the text-to-speech library, type pip and then 3 and then install pi and then TTSX3. So this means Python text-to-speech, and then X3 is the version. So let's press enter. And now this goes ahead and installs the library. And it's as simple as that. And then to use it, let's go ahead and close this. And at the top, let's import the library. So type import and then pi text to speech, or actually pi TTSX3. And there we go. So this is pretty much everything that we have to do. Now, what we're going to do here is the following. Well, right after we import, let's go ahead and say pi TS3 and then dot and then speak. So we have a speak method, and here let's have the text. So within single quotes, let's say hello. Let's run this and see what happens.
Hello.
And you can see that it said hello. So this is really, really great. So let me close this. And what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to create a function that will wrap this, so we don't have to always say pi and then TTSX3. So it's just too much, right? So we're going to do this. We're going to take this, and then we're going to have a def and then say speak. And then in here, we're going to take the text. So say text, and then inside paste this, right? And instead of hello, we're going to pass the text. So just like that. And now it means that we can just invoke this function right here and not having to say this pi TTSX3. So right after we add our name, let's say here speak, and then we want to pass hello within quotes. So hello, and then plus, and then name, and then plus, and then how are you today with question mark. And let's run the program now. And you can see that it says, what is your name? So here, let me say, for example, Eba.
Hello, Eba, how are you today?
And you saw that it said, hello, Eba, how are you today? So I'm going to cancel out of this because I don't want to complete the CV right now. But you see that with this, you have so many ideas, right? So for example, you might want to take this speak method and then, for example, ask for the phone number, right? So let's say you say speak, and then you want to take this question and then put it here and then paste that. So if I run this once more, let me say Nelson. Oops, not there. I want to write in here. So let me say Nelson.
Hello Nelson, how are you today? What is your phone number?
And you can see that now I can put my phone number, right? So this is really, really great. And for the email, we're not using the speak functionality. So there you have it. So I just wanted to show you this awesome package because it's quite amazing of how much you can do with programming. So this is all for this video. Let me just close this, and I'm going to press Control and then C here to kill this program, and then close this. So this is all for this video. If you have any questions on this, please do let me know. But yeah, so I had fun teaching you this entire project. I hope that you also had fun. So I think the next thing for us now is to take this project and then make it ready so that we can build a portfolio. And that's what we're going to do next. All right, in order for us to take this project and make it available for other people to see it, and maybe they want to download and experiment as well with this project, we have to do one thing. So here, what I want you to do first is to open up Terminal or command line if you are on Windows, new terminal, and I want you to say pip and then 3 uninstall and then python-docs and then say Y for yes, and also say pip and then 3 uninstall and then py and then ttsx and then 3 and then enter, say yes or Y actually, and now try and run the program. So you can see that this is giving me an error and it says module not found, right? And this is because we removed the package. So if you were to send this project to a friend of yours, they would need to download those two packages manually, right? And what we want is to make it easy for them to install those packages with one single command. So to do that, what we're going to do is to use a file called Requirements.txt, and then we're going to have all of the packages that this application needs, and then we just have to run one single command to download the packages specified in that file. So open up the Explorer tab, and then in here, let's create a new file, and then here, name it as Requirements.txt. And inside of this package, and let me just close this for now, inside of this file, we want to have the packages that this application depends on. So we depend on Python, so Python dash and then docs and then equals and then the version. So the version that we were using was 0.8 and then 10. And we also depend on, so on a new line, so pyttsx and then 3 equals 2.90. So make sure you have the exact same thing here as I have. Now let's save this file and then close it. And to test this, let's again run the application. And you can see that no module name docs, fine. So what we're going to do is if I close the Explorer tab and then here what we're going to do is say at the bottom, we're going to say pip and then 3 install -r and then requirements.txt. Now press enter, and you can see that it's using the it's used the dependencies inside of requirements.txt to go and download the dependencies. So now you can see that if you send this application to someone else, all they have to do is just run this command, and then that will pull all of those libraries into the project, which then means that we can run the application. So if I click on play, you can see that we have what is your name right here. I'm going to say Eba.
Hello Eba, how are you today?
And
what is your phone number?
And you can see that it's working as before. So there you have it. This was pretty much the last thing that we needed to do with this project. Next, let's take this application and then store it somewhere where you can showcase it as your portfolio. Right, I hope that you've learned a ton by doing this application. So now what we're going to do is to take whatever we've built together, and you are going to create your very first portfolio. So this is when you can showcase it to employers, right? When you start applying for jobs, this is where you will have all of the projects that you do. You should store them where I'm about to show you. It's a very popular way of people showcasing their work. And this is so important to you to give you that boost that you need. So I think you deserve it. Let's go ahead and create the portfolio together. Alright, for building our portfolio, we're going to be using this website called github.com. And basically, this is a website for developers where you can work in collaboration with other developers, and you can store all of your code in this website. So go ahead and create an account. And once you have an account, you'll have something like this. So in here, I've got a list of projects. So on the left hand side, and these are called repositories, right? So for you, you might have 0, but let's go ahead and create your first portfolio. So go ahead and create a new repository. And then here, the owner, this will be your name. And then for repository name, I'm going to say Python and then dash Intuit Quick and then books project. So this could be something shorter for you, but for now, this will be my name. And then also what I want is this repository to be public. So anyone on the internet can access this repository. So take public and then add a README in here. So I'm going to show you this in a second. Go ahead and create repository. And there we go. So this is our repository. So it might look like this. So now what we're going to do is let's add our Python files and images and everything that we have to add. So here, add file, upload files, and then we can take all of these files, right? And then just put it inside. So 4 files. We have the CV. So this is the actual CV. This might be optional. And then we have the Python file that contains the source code, and then my picture, and then requirements.txt. So now I'm going to commit the changes in here, right? So you can see the files are here, and I'm going to say commit the changes. All right, so that's done. And now you can see that we have a couple of files. You can see that we have our CV. This is the picture, and this is the Python code. So if I click on it, you can see that if I zoom in, you see that this is our Python code, right? So remember, we wrote all of this together, right? So this is now a place where you can showcase your work. So now let me actually go back a little bit. or zoom out a little bit and click on the project. And here, what we're going to do is the following. Click on this pencil and we're going to change this a little bit. So this will be, so let me just remove the dashes. There we go. And what I want you to do is to open up an issue. So click on issue. So I'm going to press command and then a new tab, or you can right click, open link in a new tab. And then here, new issue. And what I've done, I went ahead and have a screenshot of the actual CV here. So let's take this picture and then put it inside of this comment. And all we want is just this link right here. Copy that, close this, and now here, paste that in. And also, we want to have some description. So here we're going to say # twice, and then installation, and then here add backticks. Let me just zoom this so you can see everything. So backticks, and then Python install -r Requirements.txt. Remember, this is how we install the dependencies listed inside of this file. So here, let's say run, and there we go. So now if I zoom out a little bit and then scroll down, let's commit the changes. And now check this out. So Python Intuit QuickBooks project, installation, run, and then this is the command, and then this is our CV. So there you have it. So this is really, really nice. So this is your portfolio. Now you can see that this is Amigoscode / and then the project name. So you can take this. So if I click here, actually, so you can take this link and then share with someone, right? Whether you are applying for jobs or just showing to your friends, or you can send your username, so your GitHub username. So if I click on mine, Amigoscode, so this is the list of all the projects that I have, right? And if I go to repositories, you can see that the one that we've just created, Python Intuit QuickBooks project. There you have it. You now have a portfolio. Well done. Right. It was a pleasure teaching you about Python. You've come a long way, and I can tell you that this is just the beginning for you. So the next step for you is to check out my other course on Python, where I go in much more detail about some of the more interesting things that this language has to offer. Also, if you're not part of the Amigoscode community, go ahead and join both the private Facebook group as well as Discord. I would love to have you there so you can share your experience with other people. Finally, what I'm going to do for you is in December, I'm going to have a Q&A where you get to ask me any question that you want. So go ahead and fill the Google form on the link down below, and I will let you know when the Q&A will take place. It was a pleasure teaching you, and I can't wait to see how far you go in this journey. Assalamu alaikum.